I, Phil McNeely, President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members of board trustees is present and that the meeting has been duly called and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Good evening. Our mission at Duncanville is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. Now we will move on into closed session. We'll be back. Okay, we're back from closed session. We will now move into opening ceremonies. Trustee Veracruz, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Bow your heads as we give a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your guidance this hour as we seek out to make the best decisions for the school district and the community. We pray for rest and peace over educators, leadership, team, students, and Team of 8 to trust you for the outcomes that are voted on tonight. And in the same breath, we pray for the safe return of our educators, students, and staff in the coming month. I pray they return with a robust heart to teach and have a desire to learn. We thank you for any and all provisions as we come into agreement that great is your faithfulness. We pray this in your mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Trustee Fay, will you lead us in the pledges, please?
Sure. Please stand. Thank you.
We'll move on to the superintendent's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Smith.
Thank you, President McNeely, board members, and those that are in attendance tonight. It's my pleasure to bring the following items to you as part of the superintendent's report. The first item is Convocation 2023. The summer has really just flown by, and we only have 4 weeks to the first day of school. And so we're already starting getting prepared for Convocation. Convocation is an opportunity for us to come together collectively as a district and really just set the tone for the new school year. And so we're really excited about Convocation. It's going to take place on August 3rd at the Alexander Auditorium at 8 o'clock. Our theme is for this year's Convocation is this year. It's really focused on just the urgency of what we have to do as educators for our students this year. So it's really bringing the whole mindset of let this be the year that we commit to all of the goals that we have set for our students. And so we have an awesome series of activities and events that we are doing leading up to Convocation, and really excited about the work that we're going to be doing and highlighting district success at the Convocation. Have just a brief video that I'd like to show just to kind of summarize what Convocation is going to be presenting us coming up for August 3rd. If you could play the video. Thank you. Thank you. Again, the theme is this year, and it's carefully crafted to just kind of spin off from the Camp Panther theme, which is Let This Be the Year. And we'll be engaged in our Camp Panther, which is our district-wide leadership retreat. That'll be taking place later this week. And so it just gives us flexibility for everyone to kind of customize the phrase based on whatever their goal is for this school year. So again, we're really excited about convocation and getting started for school. As you know, the learning never stops. We are just about ready to conclude summer school. And so several months ago, as we were preparing for summer school, we did a presentation on the different activities. And so I wanted to share with you as we begin to wrap things up. We had a number of exciting activities going on for summer school. We had a number of enrichment camps. Those enrichment camps features programs with engineering, robotics, gaming, and our Gear Up program. So our students had an opportunity to be fully participated in a number of enrichment programs. We also had a series of academic advancement camps that involved our Collegiate Academy, our P-TECH, and our T-STEM, where students taking dual credit, and we had a PSAT and SAT camp. And then individual academic support, that was also a part of our summer school program, and that was specifically for STAR and end-of-course exam support. And then there were students, of course, that needed credit recovery. And so we offered over 20-plus programs. We had more than 1,750 students that were serviced in our pre-K through 12 programs during the summer. Breakfast and lunch were provided for students through our Nutrition Services Department. Transportation was provided, and the programs were held Monday through Thursday, and we were able to track attendance in our Skyward system as well as in our Edgerton's program. And so I'm just really pleased as we think about the number of students that continue to engage in learning even during the summer months. Even though it was a short, abbreviated summer, we had many, many students still engaged in the learning. The next item that is just a celebration and a recognition. I'd like to just formally congratulate Anthony Black, who is a 2022 graduate of Duncanville High School. After graduating from Duncanville High School, he went on to play college basketball at the University of Arkansas. And so we're very proud of this young man who was taken number 6 overall in the 2023 NBA draft. And so he'll be playing for the Orlando Magic, and if you've seen any of his videos, he always references how important Duncanville ISD was to him and his career. So we're really proud of him, and we'll continue to be following him. In one of his recent posts, he said, "Once a Panther, always a Panther." So we're really excited about him and his future. He has a very bright future. The next item that I wanted to report to you, our board is engaged in so many areas at the state level and the legislative level. And so there's a senior leadership, there's SLI training, Summer Leadership Institute, that takes place every summer. It's an opportunity for board members to come together to train and to learn and to get new information and updated on new governance laws and practices. And we were very well represented in this summer's training. So I want to say thank you to Dr. Ivory, other board members who were there in attendance. Had an opportunity to hear Dr. Ivory, Dr. Halachka, for presenting on behalf of Duncanville ISD at the Texas Association of School Boards Summer Leadership Institute last month. Dr. Ivory did a presentation entitled, "This Isn't Your Father's Oldsmobile. Do We Repurpose or Redesign?" And that was a very interesting and engaging conversation. And then together with Dr. Halachka, Dr. Ivory did a presentation titled "The Lead Team." That presentation focused on what it takes to have a winning team of 8. We know the board and the superintendent serve as a leadership team for the district, and it was just awesome for us to be on display at the state level for all the great work and commitment of this board. So I want to thank you, Dr. Ivory, Dr. Lachka, for your leadership. And And then the next item that I have for you all is the Bond Steering Committee. I don't want to steal their thunder, but I did want to take just a brief moment. They're going to be presenting to you later on in the board meeting. But I just want to say to the board, I want you to know, very, very pleased, proud of this group. This group were really committed, engaged in the process, had great ideas, great thoughts about our district, and they are all so very supportive and worked really, really hard to get to the point that we are tonight, and you'll hear later in the board meeting what their recommendation is. But I wanted to thank our committee. Many of them are here this evening. I want to thank you for your hard work, your effort, and most importantly, your commitment to Duncanville ISD. And so we look forward to hearing from you all here in just a little bit. And then the last item that I have, I'm going to ask for this individual just to stand so that I can actually recognize her. But is Miss Jamie Blair here this evening? There she is. Miss Blair is our natatorium supervisor, and she has several members of the team that are here. And so I don't know each of your names, but thank you so very much for being here. I want to recognize Miss Blair and her staff. Take a moment just to express our sincere gratitude to the entire natatorium team, of course, under the leadership of Miss Jamie Blair, for their swift action last Thursday that helped save a life. And so it's important to know that, we have community members that were willing to reach out and express their gratitude. I received emails. There may have been other board members that received feedback as well. But, we had a life-threatening situation that took place in the natatorium, and I do believe the individual that was involved in that is here this evening. And if you're able, if you could stand and be recognized. But so, I want to make sure I really do a good job of explaining what really took place, but while respecting everyone. But there was a compromising situation to a life that took place, and a loss of consciousness. And Ms. Blair and her team recognized it, noticed it right away, and went into very swift, immediate action, and were able to really save a life of someone that was unconscious in the water. And so, you couldn't have scripted it any better. And I know, that still doesn't do justice to all that doesn't happen by accident. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of preparation, and you never know when that situation is going to occur. And we're just so thankful that when it did occur, that you and your team were ready to respond. And, this young lady can continue living her life, so we very appreciate it. And I think she had something to give you. She gave it to you. So, thank you. So, Ms. Blair, I wanted to give you just a brief moment to come and address the board, if you would, please. And again, thank you so much for you and your team. And
Is it on?
I think you can just speak into it. If it's not, they'll turn it on in the back. There you go.
Okay. I just prepared just a little bit. Good evening. I'd like to thank Dr. Smith and the Board of Trustees for inviting myself and my staff to be here this evening. On Thursday, July 13th, a member of our natatorium water aerobics class suffered a medical emergency while in the pool. The lifeguards and myself immediately activated our emergency action plan. We as a team, by the grace of God and with the assistance of other pool members who were there to support us, were able to successfully remove the female from the pool and offer aid until EMS arrived. I am overjoyed to say that I have visited with her, and she is recovering and doing well, as you can see. The natatorium lifeguards are trained in multiple water safety procedures, life-saving techniques, and best practices. As their director and their instructor, I hold them to a very high standard and accept no less than excellence. As I debriefed with my staff after the incident, we were overwhelmed with emotions. I am so proud of each one of them. I know that all of the training and preparation was not done in vain, and that that we truly live up to our title as lifeguards. Thank you to our faithful pool members who were in attendance this evening. There's a whole lot of them here. Sorry, I'm getting choked up. To our faithful pool members who are in attendance this evening, to all the family and friends of the lifeguards and the Duncanville ISD Senior Leadership and Board of Trustees, and to Ms. Connie Wallace. You came and spoke to me, and I just want to tell you thank you. I told you that before. That actually really meant a lot. I appreciate that. To Officer Hilton and Officer Young, who were on the scene, and they stayed with myself and my staff to offer their support as well. So I truly just want to thank you for having us here tonight and recognizing the staff. Can we just recognize, like, not just the staff, but our community?
Absolutely,
Like, they come out.
please stand for recognition, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Will the control team in the back go back to the slide where I talked about Dr. Halachka and Dr. Ivory in the superintendent's report? Can you go back a couple slides? There you go.
Dr. Smith went through these slides really quickly, and I didn't get a chance to acknowledge Dr. Halachka just for being a great teammate. But what he didn't say is that was originally supposed to be Dr. Smith and I and Dr. Halachka filled in. And guys, we were standing at the door, and when people came to our workshop, they were looking like, where's Dr. Smith? Where's Mark? Where's Mark? Mark is not here. And several of them left and did not even come into the presentation. That is the reputation. I wanted to mention that really because that's the reputation of our superintendent. And we had mixed feelings about it. We were proud that everybody liked him, but it put us in a precarious situation to do an outstanding job with the presentation. But Dr. Smith, I just wanted you to know in your absence that there were a lot of educational leaders and educators that stopped by. They were looking for you, and yeah, they were disappointed that you weren't there.
Thank you, thank you. Y'all represented us well. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes the superintendent's report. I'll turn it over back to President McNeely.
Move to communication from citizens to discuss pending board items. No, okay. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consider the approval of the consent agenda items. All may be acted on at the same time by the Board of Trustees. Anybody got any questions on the consent agenda? Anything on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion? Please. Somebody's got to make a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as written, as recommended.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? All in favor? Motion passes. We move on now to the action agenda. First is Dr. Zamora.
Good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Smith, and Board of Trustees. Optimum Care Transportation LLC is a transportation service company that provides customized rides for students. By federal law, we are required to provide transportation for students identified as homeless, and then students attending juvenile justice alternative education program, also known as JJEP, are also in need of customized transportation services. However, due to the various locations across DFW and current shortage of drivers, we are adding more, but we still have a shortage. It would be difficult to transport these students without causing them to be away from home for extended periods of time. It creates a better learning experience for scholars who, without this service, would be picked up as early as 5 a.m., dropped off as late as 7 p.m. Optimum care transportation decreases the amount of time a student will spend on transport because it customizes upon the individual scholar's bell schedule. Now, the district does utilize another transportation service company that you just approved in consent. However, additional options are needed, especially if we have a student who is who has the use of a wheelchair. So Optimum Care, they provide their own ADA-compliant vans. They're capable of transporting ambulatory, walk-on assist, and wheelchair scholars. The company provides clearly marked vehicles, which are equipped with GPS, video, and first aid kits. And then all the drivers have passed a background check, along with driving and drug tests. And in addition, all drivers undergo safe driving and verbal de-escalation training and are CPR certified. So to schedule the rides, the transportation department will provide Optimum Care with the scholar's information through a designated secure portal. And then the portal is used to track rides and the scholars. The company will then communicate with the parents. They'll reach out and they'll provide the parents training on the app. And so there's an app that parents will learn how to use, and on the apps, it gives them real-time data as well for the parents. The contract that you have before you will be effective upon board approval to July 2024, with a possible renewal of up to 4 additional one-year periods. So therefore, tonight we're recommending that the board approve the agreement with Optimum Care Transportation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mrs.
Ms.
Zamora.
Zamora, yes.
I have a question about the portal.
Okay.
Will the Optimum Care portal be connected with our bus transportation? Will they be all on the same page?
It's an online portal.
Okay.
So we log into it.
Okay, okay.
We'll have a username and password that's secure just for us.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve agreement with Optimum Care Transportation LLC in excess of $50,000?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. And we'll move on to information items now. We will, Ms. Wallace, the first item is the naming of a facility.
President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith, we have received a recommendation to name Panther Stadium Reginald Samples Stadium. In accordance with Board Policy CW Local, the superintendent appointed a committee to review the recommendation. The committee convened and thoroughly discussed this honor, and we are all very proud to have Reginald Samples as Duncanville High School's head football coach. Coach Samples is one of the most decorated coaches in UIL history and amassed the most wins among African-American coaches in Texas. A head coach since 1990, Coach Samples began coaching at Duncanville High School in 2015. And during the past 7 seasons, he has guided the Panthers to the playoffs 6 times, reaching the state championship game 3 times, and clinching the coveted title in 2022. The facility naming committee met on June 26 and discussed several naming options. Panther Stadium is widely used and has been elevated to a national platform by our track team, soccer programs, and our football team. And with that in mind, at next month's board meeting, a recommendation will be made to honor Coach Samples by naming the field in his honor, the Reginald Samples Field at Panther Stadium, much like the Phil McNeely Court at Cinder Meadows Arena. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ms. Wallace. Kathleen?
All right, good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. In order to continuously improve and align our efforts centered around the district's shared vision, mission, motto, and values, the Board of Trustees approved the strategic plan of May of 2021. And so each SLT member engages in a quarterly review of the strategies, and we maintain a scorecard related to the strategic plan. So this evening, we will be sharing with you the district's progress related to the goals established under Priority 3, which is personnel and professional growth. Next slide. Okay. All right, and so this first slide just is a picture of the strategic plan. And so this evening, we will be focusing on Priority 3. Okay, you can go to the next slide, please. All right, in Priority 3, there are 4 goals, and they are listed here. The first one is to create a competitive salary structure that makes Duncanville ISD a top 10 regional district for compensation. The second one is to increase teacher and leader quality through targeted professional development with 75% annual achievement as defined by performance measures. The third goal is to improve capacity at all levels of the organization to create a quality pipeline for 70% of key leadership positions. And the final goal in this priority is to increase teacher retention to 85% through intentional programs and efforts. Okay, we'll move to the next slide, please. Okay, so as we take a look at the first goal, we are going to look at a few areas that are very specific to how we are working towards being a competitive district in Region 10. We want to be a top 10 district. And so some of the key actions are listed here. And these are things that you have done, and we are very thankful for these things. Since the inception of the strategic plan on last school year, you'll recall that we had a TASB compensation study. And after that compensation study, you all approved that 6% increase for teachers and that 4.4% increase for all staff members, and that had a huge impact on making us more competitive in the region. All right, and then last month at the June board meeting, you then approved $15 or more for our administrative support. Those are our clerical staff members, our instructional support, and our auxiliary positions. And we have received great feedback from that, so we thank you so much because that definitely is helping us to get closer to being a top 10 district in the region. And then the third key action is it's a sweet deal to work in Duncanville, and we know that that encompasses a lot of things. We know when we think compensation, there is the compensation, the salary that someone makes, but in addition to that, it's the total compensation. So that's things like what you contribute to each employee's benefits, $373 per month. That's just shy of $5,000 per year per employee who chooses to take medical benefits. So when we talk about being a top 10 district in the region, we're thinking about all the things that make Duncanville ISD a great place to work as it relates to compensation. And then we are also very thankful that the fourth key action in this area is in 2 years in a row, the starting teacher salary in our district has moved $57,000 last school year, and on this upcoming school year, we'll be starting at $58,500 due to the work of our school board. So we're very thankful for that. Okay, next slide. All right, I'll now turn it over to Dr. Jordan.
Good evening, President McNeely, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. Our goal for Goal 2 is to increase teacher capacity, and so this year we have launched a professional development task force. That task force has had 4 meetings with over 35 staff members that have been represented. During this time together, their goal is to provide input to make sure that we have impactful professional learning to meet the needs of our staff this year. From those 4 meetings, the task force developed a 2023-24 Panther PD catalog. I am so excited about this catalog because it is a comprehensive PD plan for our district. All professional learning, trainings that we offered this school year is housed in one place. So if you are a new teacher or new to teaching a subject, you have one place that you can go to and plan throughout the year and be able to schedule around those professional learning opportunities. In addition to the PD catalog, every staff member has a Panther PD passport. We want to take them on a journey this year and encourage them to attend professional learning that meets their needs in addition to the required professional development. And so everyone has a little card. They'll get their card stamped when they attend professional learning, and then there's incentives for them to attend. The last thing that the task force worked on this year is really incentivizing our staff for attending professional learning outside of contract hours. Our teachers and staff work hard, and then we ask them to attend PD. And so we really want to make sure that we develop something to incentivize them, which we will continue with our exchange days. If they earn 12 hours of professional learning outside of their contract hours, then they are able to exchange the last 2 teacher work days of our calendar year. Next slide. So we divide PD into 2 areas. We have professional learning in the summer, and then we have professional learning throughout the school year. We have Duncanville U, which last year we launched our first annual summer conference. This year, we're bringing it back due to teachers wanting to have another session. We have approximately 285 participants already registered with a wait list of about 70. So we are super excited that we have staff members coming in off contract to attend summer PD. We will offer over 28 PD sessions. And then we have new teacher orientation, or NTO. We are excited to welcome our new hires to the PAC, July 26th through the 28th, where we have 12 sessions that are offered specifically for new teachers. So before they get to their campus, before they start the school year, we're making sure that we equip them with the things that they need to be prepared to be a Duncanville Panther. Next slide. Then we move to our professional learning throughout the year. So it's exciting to have staff come in and have summer PD, but we want to make sure that we equip them throughout the year. So we have something that we've talked about last year. It's called Content Conversations. This is really professional learning that is focused around teaching and learning support. If you are teaching quadratic formulas or equations in class and you never taught that, there's a session for you where we can model this and then you can go back and teach. If you are unsure how to incorporate manipulatives or use a lab, we have content conversations that we offer where you're working with our curriculum coordinators. They will model and you can turn back and flip that in your classroom. This year, probably middle second semester, we launched something called Lounge and Learn. So we heard teachers are like, we love content conversations, but we need something to fill in the gaps. Every 9 weeks is great, but I'm hanging on for those 9 weeks. And so we started to offer virtual sessions that occur weekly. And we have teachers that participate from home, hence the Lounge and Learn. We've hosted 30 sessions, started middle of the year, and they are highly attended. Staff, they're able to learn in their own environment, focused in on pedagogy and content, and then we have sessions for leaders as well. In addition to having about 30 participants per session, we offered 12 for this school year, and we had over 4,830 views of the session. So in addition to hosting them, we record them, because maybe you have something going on and you cannot attend that weekly session. That's okay. You can log in and see them and view them later. So very excited about our Lounge and Learn. Next slide. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Kathleen for Goal 3. Before I turn it back over to Kathleen, are there any questions?
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now we'll look at the next goal under this priority. And so we're very aware, and we hear Dr. Smith say it often, that leadership matters. And so another goal within this priority is creating that pipeline of key leadership positions in the district. And we are very, very excited about being a part of the Holsworth Center. And the work there. Our district, among lots of districts, was selected, and so we are already embarking upon that work. But what we're so excited about is the focus that we will have on this particular piece of the strategic plan. With our work with the Holsworth Center, we'll be focused on 3 areas. One, creating a definition of leadership. What does that mean for Duncanville ISD? We'll be creating a leadership pipeline and also a vacancy and succession plan. So when someone leaves a position, we want to have someone ready to take on that key leadership role in the district. And with our partnership with Holsworth, will help us to do just that. The next 2 things that you see on the slide are things I know that you all are very familiar with. And these 2 initiatives are overseen by our dynamic chiefs of schools, Dr. Nix and Dr. Goodman. And the first one that's listed there is the Inspiring Leadership Academy. And the application is going to be open in August to September. And so we are constantly looking for individuals in our district, talent right here, to be a part of what we just talked about, that plan of succession of individuals who have what it takes to be a leader in Duncanville ISD. And so through the Inspiring Leadership Academy, our employees have an opportunity to receive mentorship as well as career growth and training right here from the best of the best with our chiefs of schools and others that they invite to come in from the district to provide that mentor and leadership opportunity for these individuals. So they participate in various areas: leadership assessment, peer-reviewed article studies. They do special projects, and those special projects turn around and benefit the district. Some of the things that they've come up with and that they've studied have been things that we've implemented right here in Duncanville ISD. And so there are lots of benefits to the district. Over 25 of them at this point have moved into leadership positions here in Duncanville. And so we see the benefit of that, and we're excited about the next steps. The newest endeavor is the Future Leadership Academy, and that partnership is with UNT Dallas. And individuals in our district have an opportunity to obtain their educational leadership masters, and the district contributes 50% of that, right? And so we know many times people will not go back to school and take that next step because it does cost, right? And so I'm very excited that we have an opportunity under the direction of our 2 chiefs of schools for individuals to reach that ultimate goal, to be leaders. Okay, next slide. Okay, and then the final part of priority 3 is focused on health and wellness. We spend a lot of time speaking about that as it relates to our students, and we know that their social and their emotional, their physical well-being is so important. And so the strategic plan has a specific piece in there that's about our staff in those same areas. And so the first thing you see up there is health and wellness. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we have here in the district as it relates to our employees. And so with our TRS Active Care, there are lots of resources that we've been able to partner and have available for our staff. Many of you, if I said everyone raise your hand who has some app on their phone that is tracking something, right? I had something come out of my account not long ago. I was like, oh, what was that I bought, right? I'm not using it. Well, our staff has access to an app that's free of charge if they take the medical benefits, where they can track all of those things: calories, steps, meals, all of those things. And so we are working hard to push that information out to our staff so that they know what resources are available to them. The next piece in that is a women's and family health component. We are really focusing in on women's health in our district and things that impact women and their health. And so there are lots of resources available coming up when school starts. We'll be having a baby shower here in the district for our individuals who are expecting and going to have babies throughout the year. There are lots of things that we can share and resources that are available to them through that process. The next piece is on mental health. It's been a huge, huge focus for us. We see it listed on number 4, but also under our health and wellness piece, we have lots of resources and support for individuals through our regular medical insurance in addition to the Dow Care program that we're going to talk about, okay? And then the 2 and 3 are things that have new on them because we have revamped our employee exit survey and wanting to see, okay, when individuals are leaving the district, it is very important that we know, okay, why are they leaving? We know it's the Great Resignation, and we've had lots of people leaving the profession as a whole, but we're also focusing on a stay survey. That is a piece of our strategic plan, and that survey is being developed. What makes you choose Duncanville? What makes you stay in Duncanville so that we can do more of those things? And then the final piece here is Dow Care. On last year, we talked about what the numbers look like, and I definitely want to share with you this evening what our numbers look like related to Dow Care for the 22-23 school year. This is a part of our employee assistance program. And so this year alone, from September 1st through June 30th, we've had 368 consults from staff members here in Duncanville ISD. And so we're excited that the word is getting out, that employees know they have access to that resource 24 hours a day, that they can call someone and have access that they need. I will say that the top concerns for our district that we have seen, and this is in this order, or relationship issues, that was number 1 out of the 368. Next was anxiety. The third was depression, and the fourth is stress. And so, of course, we don't know the who. We don't need to know the who, but it helps us knowing what our employees are dealing with so that we then know better how to support them and what resources that they need available to them. Because life is lifing, as they say, it's happening to everyone, and we want to make sure that our employees are able to show up for the students here in the district. I will tell you that 368 does not mean 368 different employees. It means 368 consultations, and so many of those employees were following up and may have had 5 or 6 times that they were consulting with Dow Care. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the 4 goals under Priority 3, and it would be my pleasure to answer any questions that you have at this time.
I have a question. Is there any particular reason why we have women and children and not men?
Well, with TRS Active Care, that is just a big push right now is women's health and things that we can do to better support women just based on some of the trend data that they are seeing. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on. Information discussion item C, Citizens Facility Advisory Committee and Bond Recommendations.
Well, good evening. All right. Well, President McNeely and members of the Board of Trustees and Dr. Smith, thankful for the opportunity to present, again, an update and ultimately a recommendation in tonight's presentation. And again, I'd just like to say, again, I'm thankful and blessed to be able to serve. So on behalf of Huckabee and the Huckabee team and my colleague Leslie Weaver, thank you for giving us the opportunity to serve and partner with Duncanville ISD. And I'm pleased to present to you tonight along with Dr. Halachka and a representative from the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee, Mr. Kreitzberg, the recommendation to the Board of Trustees. And next slide, please. As we talk about the committee overview, Dr. Smith has already alluded to, and I certainly want to second the notion that you should be extremely proud of the focus, the intentionality, the diligence, and the effort from this diverse group of over 20 committee members and the recommendations they've arrived at by consensus, as you will hear presented tonight. Next slide, please. If we take you through the facility planning timeline, this sort of gives you an update. To the left The blue flags are the items that we have completed, and specifically recently completing in May and June, the two very important meetings that were conducted by the committee, as well as all of the due diligence and all of the information that they were able to analyze. And you see where we are now, where it says you are here, obviously, that is this board meeting here near the middle of July. And you'll see what's coming in red. August 21st is our deadline to call an election, if you choose to do so. And you see August through November, our voter education. And November 7th, obviously, is Election Day, depending on how you choose to proceed. And so, again, with the timeline, we've just been very diligent. And again, I'm thankful for all of the staff, all of the leaders, everyone who has participated in this effort. And I would just remind you on the next slide of the committee's purpose. As way of review, they were to assist the district in assessing and prioritizing the district's current and long-term facility needs, consider the educational needs of all students and the equity associated with it, develop recommendations that are fiscally sound, and then you find us where we are tonight to report their recommendations on how to proceed with the long-range facilities plan. Next slide, please. By way of review, again, the information studied and the work completed in that first meeting represented as day one. Sort of a recap of the committee's efforts, which included a full day sessions. And obviously you see with day one, consensus was defined, 5 schools were toured, the demographer's report, the assessment, the school finance 101, the financial overview, bonding capacity, all of the information necessary so that they could arrive at a decision based on the data that's been presented, and the tours that they went on occurred in day one. And as we pick up day two, our most recent meeting, they were able to tour Duncanville High School. And as we talk about wellness and health, let me just say we got our steps in through those tours. We were able to study some project options, analyze potential project costs and updated tax impacts scenarios, reviewed results of a community survey that was conducted, and then your committee was able to prioritize projects and needs based on all the information and data and tours that they were able to collaborate on and put together. And ultimately with this, they were able to go through a build-a-bond process to build a bond package and finalize a recommendation that's going to be presented to you tonight as well. So that's sort of a recap of these two very intense days, full day sessions of meeting, reviewing a lot of data, touring, and taking all of that information and collaborating so that they could come to consensus and make a recommendation tonight. The next slide just shows you photographs of day one. Thank you. Photographs of day one, and you can see, you know, bus tours and several groups going through 5 different schools. And then the next slide, please, shows, you know, touring through Duncanville High School specifically. And so, again, kudos to the team. A lot of information, a lot of data to process, but there was great collaboration. Again, we had experts coming in and telling us about their departments. We were able to experience it firsthand as we walked through and take that analysis and that data and be able to collaborate and come to consensus. So that being said, we'll go to the proposition structure and ballot language, because when all of this is put together, if you choose to proceed in that direction, there's some ballot language that needs to be put together. Now, there are some certain rules for that ballot language, and our next slide shows some of it, because it is, again, for example, SB 30 that was passed in 2019. It requires separate propositions depending on the type of project, whether it's, you know, it could be athletic, it could be recreational, it could be performing arts. You see there housing for teachers. You see highlighted specifically technology equipment other than security or infrastructure. So if there's technology equipment on the ballot, it has to be, it's listed separately as an independent proposition. The other thing that you'll notice on the next slide is that the ballot language requirement, according to HB 3, which was also passed in 2019, it requires specific ballot language that reads, "This is a property tax increase." Even though it may not be a property tax increase, okay, that nomenclature, that language has to be included on the ballot. And you'll hear later from your committee member representative where they stand in terms of whether or not there would be a property tax increase. So that just gives you an example and an understanding of what's required by law. This next slide, again, is sample ballot language. You can notice there, Proposition A, the issuance of whatever dollar amount of bonds by Duncanville Independent School District, and this language and nomenclature has to be included to construct, renovate, and equip school facilities, and the imposition of a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. This is a property tax increase. So that's an example of one proposition, and then obviously, because of the law, a standalone sample ballot, Proposition B in the next slide, will show you a standalone ballot specifically for technology equipment, where once again, it has to be labeled as a property tax increase. So that basically brings you up to speed, if you will, on all that has occurred. There's been a lot of work, a lot of hours put in, but again, kudos to your committee and their commitment, and obviously the recommendations they're going to be making to you tonight. So I'm going to defer to Dr. Halashka, who will come up after me, unless there are any questions that I could address. No? Okay, I'll defer to Dr. Halashka.
Thank you so much. Well, good evening, President McNeely, Dr. Smith, and trustees. I'm so excited to share with you an introduction this evening of the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee's recommendation and to outline the rationale for some of the decisions made by the committee members. However, before I dive into that, I'd really like to take a moment to really express that sincere gratitude for all of the community members, the parents, teachers, students, and leaders that served on the committee. They worked so hard for 2 very long days to get us to this recommendation. They were strategic, they were collaborative, and all really demonstrated a strong commitment to doing what's best for the students of Duncanville ISD. There are several of them here this evening, so I'd just like to take a moment to have them stand and be recognized. So if you are on the committee, please stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you. So next slide. So after a lot of study and discussion, the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee settled on recommending a bond totaling $170 million spread across 2 propositions. The first proposition focuses on safety and security, a CTE addition, renovations, capital improvements, transportation, and technology infrastructure and network updates. And then, as you just heard, as required by law, Proposition B is added to support the replacement of digital projectors with interactive technology monitors. Our committee representative, Mr. Mike Kreitzberg, will share more about the recommendation here in just a few minutes, but before I turn it over to Mr. Kreitzberg, let's talk briefly about why a bond. Next slide. There are limitations on what a bond can and cannot be used for. It cannot be used for personnel cost or short-term purchases, but the dollars can be used to support things such as maintenance needs, safety and security, facility updates, and other long-term expenses. In considering a bond, the committee discussed several reasons why a bond was needed in our district. Not all of the reasons discussed are listed here on the screen, but the committee focused on what's necessary for us to maintain and update our facilities while also providing optimal learning environments for our students. Mr. Kreitzberg will share more about the specific projects, but 3 important things the bond will allow us to do are to create an early childhood campus for our earliest pre-K3 and pre-K4-year-old learners. It will also add space to the high school that allows us to expand and upgrade our CTE programs. And finally, the bond will allow us to reconfigure campuses to allow for more choice for our families and with fewer transitions for our students. Next slide. Currently, our grade structure has our students transitioning 3 times between elementary school and high school. With each transition, students have to adjust and adapt, which research says results in some learning loss. To reduce transitions, we will utilize some of the bond dollars to reconfigure our current intermediate schools and add 2 standalone choice academies and an early learning center. Smith Elementary would house our pre-K 3 and 4-year-old students with a possibility of an employee childcare. Central Elementary would move to a standalone choice campus for interested students to attend from kindergarten to 8th grade. Hardin and Daniel would become traditional neighborhood elementary schools that would serve students from kindergarten to 5th grade, and all remaining elementary campuses would also change to K-5 schools as well. Our middle school campuses would welcome 6th graders, and what is currently Brandenburg Intermediate would become a 6th through 8th grade standalone choice campus for interested students. We are confident this reconfiguration is win-win for our districts and our student. However, bond dollars would be needed for this vision to be fully executed. Next slide. The Citizens Facility Advisory Committee took this reconfiguration plan into consideration as they set priorities. Their top 5 priorities were increasing CTE opportunities, renovation and capital improvements, safety and security, technology, and transportation. So before I turn it over to our committee representative, Mr. Kreitzberg, I want to pause briefly to see if there are any questions regarding the why behind the bond recommendation. Questions? Okay, so Mr. Mike Kreitzberg will now share on behalf of the committee and their recommendation and specific bond projects.
Good evening, President McNeely, Dr. Smith, and valued trustees. It is a privilege to share with you the recommendation of the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee. I believe I can speak on behalf of the committee members when I say thank you for allowing us to share our voices and represent the district stakeholders in this process. It was a pleasure to serve, and those representatives on the committee were outstanding choices, and I think represented all types of stakeholders in the district. As was shared earlier, our committee engaged in several campus tours, reviewed district needs, gained an understanding of the fiscal impact of the bond, and we set priorities that led to the development of our recommendation. In the past bond, there was an emphasis on new elementary campuses. For this bond, we recommend bookending by focusing on the high school and early childhood opportunities for students. In the next slide, you'll see that one of the key recommendations is to construct a CTE, Career and Technical Education edition at Duncanville High School that will allow for the CTE programs to be clustered and expanded with more public access. In our tour of Duncanville High School, we got to see firsthand the need to expand our CTE classrooms and equip them with industry standard resources. This visual, the map, shows a possible location for the multi-story CTE addition. This location would allow for the CTE programs to work together, not separately, to reflect the workforce and create services that our community could take advantage of. So you can see that's in front of the West Campus, the original high school campus, there on Camp Wisdom. In the next slide, the CTE addition is also one of several projects the committee is recommending. We're also recommending that some major renovations to Smith Elementary, Central Elementary, and Brandenburg Intermediate to support the reconfiguration and to renovate 2 of our oldest schools. Hopefully keeping the facade of Central Elementary. Okay, that's my own personal thought. There would also be funds made available to renovate areas of Duncanville High School to create a more modern, safe, and engaging learning environment for our students, for the over 5,000 students that are there. Although the reconfiguration, CT addition, and choice programs are important to the future of the district, there are also many general maintenance issues that we felt as a committee were critical and needed to be addressed. Therefore, we are recommending the bond proposition include funds for replacing and repairing HVAC systems and roofs. We're also proposing updates to support accessibility at campuses and general exterior site improvements due to wear and tear, weather, and aging. In the next slide, we learned also some of the new state requirements for safety and security, and know that the limited funds provided by the state will not be sufficient in updating the security needs for our campuses. From security cameras, fencing, window film, automatic locks, there is a need to dedicate bond funds towards making our schools safe and secure for students and staff, and that was a major point of discussion by the committee members. The pandemic also taught us about the importance of equipping our students with up-to-date technology. Therefore, the committee is recommending the board dedicate bond dollars towards improving the infrastructure and network capabilities of the district. We also know that a large number of digital projectors throughout the district are broken or beyond repair. Therefore, it is time to replace all projectors with more modern, interactive monitors that support student learning and professional development. And finally, we have 40 buses that are over 16 years of age, and they show their age, and you can feel it when you ride on them too. And we are in critical need of replacement, as we did get to ride on some of these buses during our tours and firsthand understand the urgency of that need for replacing some of those buses. Therefore, we recommend replacing these buses with new ones that have improved safety features and are more comfortable and reliable. Our next slide, here you can see a complete list of our recommended projects, which comes to a grand total of $170 million across two propositions. We as a committee, and we reached consensus over 72%, but I think it was 100%, recommend that the board accept our recommendation and call for a November 2023 bond election. So I'll offer the opportunity for any questions you may have. Okay, all right. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Josh McLaughlin from BOK Financial.
Good evening, President McNeely, members of the board, Dr. Smith. This is the fun part where I have to tell you it's not for free. If you could hit the next slide for me. So, what this will show you is based upon current law, as of last Monday, the increase was roughly 2.89 cents per year, assuming a $170 million bond program. That said, that was as of last Monday. The legislature, whether you know it or not, met last week and passed property tax reform. That did a couple things. One of those things it did was it provided additional tax compression. So if you look at your M&O tax rate, right there it's listed at 93.29. That very well will probably drop about 18.5 cents next year. The other part of what they did was they increased the residential homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000, which gives even more of a benefit to taxpayers. However, by increasing the residential homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000, it basically takes away property tax value off the district's rolls. We do not know the extent of that adjustment yet. Next week, on September 25th, the district will receive its certified values. We will know at that time, and we will have to go through the process of recalculating the projected increase. It will not be 18 cents, okay? So the taxpayers will see a drop in the overall tax rate, but these numbers will change. If you flip to the next slide. So this essentially was for a $200,000 taxable home within the district, what 2.89 cents would have meant, which is roughly $57.80 a year, which translates into less than $5 a month or less than $1 a week. And again, that was based upon a $40,000 homestead. Now it's $100,000. Okay, so the numbers will be even less. The reality is, again, and I apologize because I wish they would have done this earlier and we could have tried to figure out for you. But once we get your certified values next week, we will be able to recalculate it. So before you decide to adopt the order calling the election, you will have that information in hand. No, I went through that quickly. I'll be happy to answer any questions before I turn it back over.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. This is his second board meeting tonight, so we appreciate him being here. I know we've given you a lot of information this evening, and I just want to say thank you to all of the presenters that have shared. Now that you're informed of the recommendation, if we move to the next slide, you will have a few weeks to consider this recommendation before having to call for the election. If you'll go to the next slide, the election must be called, and we've said this several times, and we keep repeating it because it's such an important date, but the election must be called no later than August 21st if we want the bond to be placed on the November 2023 ballot. Next slide. Again, the intention tonight is to share the committee's work and recommendation to ensure you're fully informed of what is being proposed. Thank you again to the committee members, district leaders, and the board for your support of the bond exploration process. Myself or the other presenters, we're all happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Lauch. I just wanted to add to the board, we were intentional about leaving some time between tonight's presentation and the August 21st deadline so that, you know, if we needed to have another board meeting after we got our final numbers so that you can see the impact of the taxes, then we have the opportunity to do that prior to having to make a decision on the 21st.
Other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm the last one, too.
Oh, yeah. You're still up.
I'm still on. Well, good evening again, President McNeely, trustees, and Dr. Smith. In alignment with the Strategic Priority Operational Excellence Goal 3, I am pleased to present to you this evening the first reading of Policy Update 121 and an additional local policy revision. Our district partners with the Our district partners with the Texas Association of School Boards, or TASB, to prepare its policies. Tonight, I'll be sharing with you 11 local policy updates. You've been provided the annotated local policies in your packet this evening, along with TASB's explanatory notes. Next slide. I will just provide a quick overview of the changes for each policy this evening, but if you would like more information or clarification, of course, I'm happy to dive deeper into the recommended revisions. CFB Local aligns the capitalization threshold with the GASB implementation guide and clarifies the role of the superintendent. CKE and CKEA Local are paired because the language regarding commissioned peace officers is moved from CKE to CKEA and better aligns the legal and local policy language. For CLB Local, if a district owns residential property, that property is subject to the integrated pest management rules set forth by administrative code. In CRF Local, this consists of a change to the policy template. There are no changes to the policy language. For CVA local and CVB local, they are both being changed to remove the "or designee," since this is already allowable under BJA local and is not necessary to be repeated. For policy DEA local, there has been some clarification to the language used in the policy and to clarify pay during an emergency closing. FD local has 2 revisions. Language has been changed to give more flexibility to districts regarding proof of residency requirements and addresses the awarding of credit requirements for homeless students that transfer into the district. And then the last revision under Update 121 is FFI local, which notes the expectation that the superintendent ensure the TEA minimum standards for bullying prevention are implemented and there is periodic monitoring of bullying incident reports. In addition to the policies in Update 121, there's one additional policy revision we are proposing this evening. CO local is being revised slightly to change the allowable meal charges to be up to $50 instead of the set meal count of 14 meals. Next slide. This concludes my overview of the local policy revisions in Update 121 and CO local. Our next steps will be listening to any recommendations or revisions from the board and adjusting the policies as requested prior to recommending for approval in August. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Hoskins. Oh, wait a minute, Carla's got one.
Yes.
I know you love me, Dr. Phil. I have a question. I need to better understand the nutrition part.
Okay.
Is it true that all of our students may have a breakfast and lunch at no charge?
I'm going to ask our,
I see our ladies here tonight.
they're going to be more knowledgeable in that
Okay.
area.
Good evening. So all of our students do get breakfast for free at no charge.
Okay.
And then since this past year, the COVID waivers were over. And so we started to, now students, they do pay for their lunch. Unless
Okay.
they qualify for free lunch, then they do have to pay either reduced or a full paid meal
Okay.
for lunch.
Okay, that explains that. What do we presently do with our leftover foods?
I'm gonna let her answer that.
Currently, leftover foods, if they can't be used again, are discarded. For the upcoming school year, we do have a plan in the fall, probably September, October, to start share tables so that students who don't want food can leave specific food items on a shared table, and if someone else is hungry, they may come and get it. There's certain foods that you're allowed to do that with. Of course, they have to be either wrapped, they have to not need temperature control and things like that. There's some guidelines, but we are looking at doing that in the future.
Okay, thank you. I've seen lots of unopened milk cartons in the trash.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
always think, what a waste, and there's probably some guys, maybe at another school, like if they're left over at elementary, that some of our big guys at the high school might like.
Yeah, and share
2 or
tables
3 or-
will help with that. It
Okay.
definitely will.
Okay.
One of the reasons for waste is there's a certain number of components the students must take on their tray, whether they want it or not.
Right.
And those are just regulations that we have to follow no matter what.
Okay, just take care of our students.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Any additional questions?
Any other questions? Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much.
Okay, one last thing. We have some representatives from Elevate, and I want to make sure that we recognize them for being here this evening. Kathleen, can you come up and make a more formal recognition? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This evening, all the way from Chicago, we have 2 ladies. If you all would please stand. We have Michelle Merzian, I got it, and Allison Pollock. And Pollock, I keep saying her Pollock, and they are here in case we had any questions, and they've been interacting with us virtually throughout this process leading up to tonight, and so we're excited about our partnership with them. Thank you.
And which partnership is that again?
This is Elevate K-12, K-12 Elevate, yes.
Sometimes you ask a question and you already know the answer, but there's a
Yes.
person asking the question.
Yep, that's a commercial for y'all. So, yeah, we're glad to have them. They'll be flying back out tomorrow. So, thank you, ladies.
I have a question. Yes. Cubs or White Sox? I'm kidding.
Neither. I'm originally from Detroit, so I'm an anti-Chicago sports fan. But a huge
Chicago.
Texas football fan, so does that count for something?
Okay.
Sean Gay was
So-
my quarterback for a while.
If it's Detroit, that's Lions and Tigers.
Yeah, don't bring up the Lions, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, as we end tonight, I again would like to say thank you to our citizen committee, bond committee. I know they put in a lot of work. We appreciate your efforts, your leadership on this project, and I just wanted you to know we really appreciate you. That's it. Let's go home.